So today we have this fundamentals of Sanskrit etymology, Varnamala. I will have to give you an overview of something which is very unique for, Indian tradition, Indian language, Indian spirituality. That is Sanskrit language. The Sanskrit language is so unique that it covers the long period, historic period of development of, it covers several structures of consciousness. Sri Aurobindo somewhere says that this language, though we have an idea about it, about the classical tongue, Vedic Sanskrit, but its origin is much earlier, from the beginning of Kalpa, not even Manvantara. And that means something. And it was totally fully developed language, remnants of which we have today. So we are dealing with something which is much more reduced in its power and depth of consciousness and capacity to express that consciousness and manifest it. Much smaller remnant of some kind, or reduced form of that vaster possibility. Keeping that in mind, we have to come to this etymology and see how we can really understand the depth. And maybe with that understanding, we can even recover it to a certain extent, or at least recover in our mind to understand that it is possible. So I already presented to you the scheme. You see my projection, yes? And we already dwelled on it a bit. And this scheme tells us something fundamental about the relation of Artha and Shabda, about the sound and the meaning of the sound. And this sound and meaning of the sound in the general linguistics um, is known as signified and signify. I wanted to say Vachya and Vachaka, from which it was taken. It was taken from Bhartrihari's definition of Vachya, which has to be expressed, and Vachaka, which is expressing that which is to be expressed. So on one side we have the form, Artha is the form, or the self, let us say Atman. On the other, we have the meaning of that self, how that self relates to all other selves. And that is the word. The word is the meaning of something which is real. So there is something real, and there is the expression of that reality in terms of consciousness. And that expression actually covers all possible relations. I hope it is understood. These are the basics of the semantics.
Vladimir, I have one small doubt, please.
Sure, please, Praveen.
Yeah. So Vladimir, I intended to ask a question on this scheme specifically. Um, I have kind of also sent it in the chat box. Uh, and today you have just mentioned that Artha is the Atman. My original question was, how does that one entity at the para level become distinguished into two entities, that is an object and a word at the vicary level? That is my first question. The second is, if you say Artha is Atman, what is Shabda? Is that the relation that you're talking about? So that is my second question.
Yes, Artha is the word, the sound, and Artha is the meaning of the sound. Or what is the meaning of anything we express in consciousness? We express always the being. The being is behind, yes? Every expression. What else could we express if not that which is? That which is the being, which we express in consciousness. And that expression can have many meanings or relations or varieties of relations, whereas the self is always there behind. So the self is manifested in the form. So if I take any form, like I'm usually taking the phone here, which is next to me, this is the form. And the meaning of this form, of this artha, is the mobile. Mobile tells me what this form can do to me, to you, to others. Mobile tells me a lot, which we don't see in the form. We don't see that I
Okay,
can
so
call. Yeah.
artha is the meaning, right? Just to clarify, artha is the
Yeah.
meaning.
Yes.
Shabda is the word.
Yes.
Yeah.
The meaning and word were separated from the beginning of creation. This separation is here shown, and the whole manifestation of time and space comes with this separation. I don't remember whether we spoke about the myth of
Yes.
Brihaspati and Indra. Yes,
Yes.
we did.
And what I remember is that that separation is actually a symbolization of the separation of our mental faculties also, or rather differentiation of our mental faculties. Would that be correct? That as we differentiated mentally, ideas of the separation of artha and shabda also happened simultaneously. Would that be correct?
Very nice idea, because the Indra is the one who separates them, and Indra is the Lord of the Divine Mind who is actually separating it by mental categories. Yes,
Yeah.
otherwise you cannot separate them.
Yeah.
So how Indra captured the word of Brihaspati, which was identical with Artha. This is Paravak, identification, total identification of power and consciousness, yeah, or meaning and the form, or the word, or the meaning and the word. So when they were one and the same, so to separate them means to possess them in time and space, to manage them at will. And so to manage them at will, you need to be able to pronounce anything, all the elements, all the details, which are not maybe even relevant in that moment of time of that being, you know, in that moment. And that creates time and space. It's a very profound topic, by the way. It looks very primitive or simple myth, but actually there is more to it. If we dwell on it, if we meditate on this separation, I'm very glad that you brought the mental categories of Indra, because he created the language, he created grammar. Actually, in
Mm.
Indian tradition, it is known as Aindram. So, Vyakaranam, the grammar is Aindram. Indra was first creator of language. So how did he create here? He captured this infinite sound, infinite consciousness application of being into particular slots. And these slots are grams, are his creations. With He could do it with his mental categories. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, is it correct to say you mentioned about form and meaning, Vladimir?
Yeah.
So, meaning is artha and the form is shabda, which is identical at the para level. So, the form becomes an object at the Vaikari level, and the meaning becomes the word at the Vaikari level. Is that right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So far so good, Vladimir. But my next question is the way Indra separated the one entity into two. To understand that basically in a very mechanical way, or if I may ask, what is the mechanism by which that one entity becomes this duality? So do we have to incorporate other metaphysical things like Sankhya? But I understand in Vedic view it is different. So is that a topic that is relevant to this also? And do we need to incorporate Sankhya to understand this?
Well, Sankhya is a philosophical system which evolved later, and it will relate to it definitely 100%. But do we need to do it now? We are coming to the Mhm. It's a big topic. It's a very interesting topic, but it's very complex, and it will. Maybe we will arrive at it, and kind of you bring this question again about Sankhya, and we will look into it how these two got separated. Yeah?
And also, yes, surely, on also along the same lines, does it also relate to the question of how that one Brahman or Shabda Brahman becomes many? Uh, does it relate to this?
Yeah, it is absolutely relating to it.
Oh,
So, how Shabda Brahman became many, and what is Shabda Brahman? In a tantric tradition, it is seen as consciousness power. Let us look at this Artha Shabda as consciousness power, yes? Chit tapas or Chit Shakti, as it were.
the concept of tapas is new to me, Vladimir. I've heard about Shaktis, but I'm not understanding what exactly you mean when you say power. I understand consciousness, but maybe I'm new to this, but maybe in course of time I'll understand.
No, no, no. It's a very important, fundamental question. What is power? What is power according to you? How can you really? These are irreducibles. You cannot reduce them to some other smaller meanings. They are not composed by other elements. So you will have to define what is consciousness, which is quite difficult, and
Yeah.
what is power.
But then we are introducing two entities, but in my mind, I always think there is only one reality or one entity. So that is the difficulty I have when we say about two entities at para level. I'm having that difficulty, Vladimir.
Okay, I understand. So why there are two entities? Let us start with that.
Okay, okay.
Why not one? Why these two are one? One are two. So why that combination? At the beginning was the Word, and Word was with God, and Word was God. Why that thing is already in duality there, which
Yeah.
tells us about oneness? Why? Why do you think? You, what do you think?
Um, so the only thing that I can think about is the separation of the person and the energy, which is in my tradition, at least I understand there is a Shaktiman, and the Shaktiman has Shaktis. So there's a difference between uh,
Lovely. You solve the problem. Mind cannot deal with one reality. Mind is not capable to deal with one reality. It needs some kind of reflection upon that reality. Yes, it needs consciousness to perceive the being. Otherwise, how would you say anything about the being if
yeah,
consciousness is not there to perceive it, to know it, to cognize it? So
right.
here you have duality immediately. You have being which is conscious of itself. No?
And it's reflecting itself through the energy.
And energy is an interesting because we have Sat, Chit, Tapas, Ananda. Yes? This order is also important. Tapas or Shakti comes third in the row of this hierarchy. First being, yes? Being must be there. If there is nothing to exist, then there is nothing to talk about. Yeah? There is no consciousness existing without being. It's not possible. Consciousness is there to be aware of what is, yeah, and not aware of what we cannot say even is not, because the moment we say is not, it is there already. So consciousness is a part of the being. And once it is perceiving the element or the detail or whatever, the property of the being, focusing on it, it becomes a power. So, what is this power part of consciousness? It is that it is charged with the presence of the being. Being is power within consciousness. Whoa,
Mm.
boom.
Uh, could it be, Vladimir, like the tree of life, Keter, Bina, and Hokma?
Say it again. I didn't hear you well.
Could it be really like in the tree of life? Could it be like Keter, Hokma, and Bina? or not?
Yeah, could be. Yeah, didn't think of it. Yes, like the Trinity on the top of the tree.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. Like yes, on one side there is a wisdom, on the other is the reason. Wisdom and
Mhm.
reason are in one is restricting the other. Or um, well, it is already a bit different system, but mentally, yes. Conceptually, yes. Otherwise, if we imagine that what is power? Power, even in physical form, power is if I push something, yes? I push with what? I push,
Will.
yeah, will. Will is pushing me to push something. So I have to push it with the body. Yeah? I'm just simplifying the topic. So every power has some reality behind it. It is not just a perception. Yeah? It is some self is there, some being is there to push another being. So, and that is power.
Could we say Artha is Atman and Shabda is consciousness? Is that correct?
Yes, it is correct.
Mm.
Artha is not only power, Artha is also being, which is perceived by consciousness and becomes power. So consciousness power, we start from this living being be, so to say, and we start with consciousness power as consciousness and being perceived by power, by consciousness. When being perceived by consciousness, it becomes power. It becomes something effective. Sri Aurobindo speaks about these two in a very interesting manner. He says that everything starts with kshobha, with original vibration. If there is no vibration in the being, of consciousness in the being, then there cannot be sense. If there is no vibration of power in the being, there cannot be the object of sense. I will find the exact if you want me. It is a profound definition of consciousness power, because these two formulate what? The sense and the object of sense. The sense and the object of sense go together from the beginning.
Right.
Would that be related, to feminine and masculine and energy, or it's got nothing to do with it, like Shakti being the feminine and the spirit being the masculine, or not?
I think it is already a development of late metaphysics and a sociological kind of preference of having masculine and feminine
Yeah.
relations.
But I'm trying to sort out, what I have to leave and what I can keep. So
Yes,
this is why
definitely
I'm
use
asking that
this.
question.
Yes, definitely. But I'm answering as I understand it. Also, it's my
Yeah, but that's what
understanding.
I want.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So, I want to find for you this quotation, exact quotation, and I will now. 1 second, give me a second of Sri Aurobindo for this definition, since you're already asking for it, and it will be here. I will project now in a minute these
Where
major.
is the source?
Say it again.
Um, where are you picking up the source from, Vladimir? Can you share that
From
too?
yes, from my from other presentation.
Oh, okay.
On the metaphysics, yes, because it is. I have several courses running at the same time, so.
Mm.
Are you running the Sankhya course also, Vladimir, right now? Or
Yes, Sankhya is a part of it. By the way, Sankhya is excellent to come to. It will explain a
but
lot
I
of.
did not find it in the website. I could find only the Agni course and this course. Is there a Sankhya course also happening?
I don't have separate Sankhya course. It's a
Okay,
part
okay.
of the Faculties of Consciousness course. And in the faculties of consciousness, I have Sankhya explanation how it works and how it is related to pre-Sankhyaik paradigm and Vedic, because there were several shifts from the Vedic to Upanishadic. It is pre-Sankhyaik and then Sankhya, and from Sankhya onwards we have only one particular way of looking at things. Sankhya is actually defining the mental structure of consciousness. From that time on, there are not much of varieties. Here it is. This is an important definition by Sri Aurobindo of samjnana, the essential sense, how consciousness comes into action in the manifestation. So he says everything begins with a vibration or movement, the original kshobha or disturbance. If there is no movement of the conscious being, it can only know its own pure static existence. This is quite clear. If there is no movement, what is there to know? The pure mirror kind of reflects the being which is not acting. Without vibration or movement of being in consciousness, I said wrongly, consciousness in being. Without movement of being in consciousness, there can be no act of knowledge and therefore sense. Wow, this is something. Without vibration or movement of being in force, there can be no object of sense. If being doesn't move within the power, within the force, there cannot be creation of any object, of that object of sense for the consciousness. Movement of conscious being as knowledge, becoming sensible of itself as movement of force. In other words, the knowledge separating itself from its own working, to watch that and to take it into itself again by feeling. This is the basis of universal samjnana. We can translate samjnana as consciousness, actually, literally. Kon is some, together. Jna is this to be aware of. This is true both for our internal, external, and external operations. It is true for all operations. What it says very interesting. Everything is created by consciousness, consciousness power. But then consciousness separates itself from this creation and perceives it anew, as if it is for the first time. And that creates the sense.
Yeah.
That's how we can know anything. Yes, go ahead.
So at a micro level, would it be fair to say that what we look at as evolution and involution at a macro level, at a micro level that translates into differentiation and integration again? So in a sense, with that vibration, of course, these are my words, that somewhere there's that movement or the vibration helps me to, or helps that consciousness to experience itself through differentiation processes.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Very
yeah.
nice, lovely. You're defining now prajnana, another element of consciousness. There are four essential or secret operations of consciousness: samjnana, ajnana, vijnana, and prajnana. All of them simultaneously acting. What you did now, it's interesting. You defined prajnana. We are kind of drifting towards this, how consciousness operates, because it's important for our etymological theory also to understand how sound and meaning can go together. Yeah? So what it says that everything in the world, whatever took the form, has its own consciousness. And that consciousness is cognized by us. So we arrive at understanding of it and we think, oh, now I know. Yeah? But truly speaking, I knew it from the beginning, only I have to arrive at it again. And this is the game. Otherwise, I would never arrive at any knowledge. How can I arrive at some knowledge which I didn't have? It's impossible. This is an amazing view on consciousness, because then we understand why all things are meaningfully related. The whole stars, the whole cosmos is, everything follows his own way in his own dharma. And this table knows how to be on the floor of the floor, in the house on the ground, on earth is spinning, running around the sun is running around the galaxy. We are all moving somewhere 1 million kilometers per hour, our speed of our solar system around the galaxy. And what is this? Everything knows how to be. The birds know how to fly over the ocean. We know how to speak. We know how to meet, how to create, and everything works. Everything meaningfully works because it's already charged with consciousness. Only we are rediscovering it. And by rediscovering, we are kind of creating the world. Creating means it is there. It has to be manifested. All the meanings are there. They have to take shape and form, and they are taking shape and form. So you're absolutely right. Shobindu says something more on this, on Samjnana, which is quite amazing. I become anger, says Sri Aurobindo, by a vibration of conscious force acting as nervous emotion, and I feel the anger that I have become by another movement of conscious force acting as light of knowledge. I am conscious of my body because I have become the body. That the same force of conscious being which has made this form of itself, this presentation of its workings, knows it in that form, in that presentation. Amazing. For me, it's kind of, it looks like beating around the bush, but it is exactly that how consciousness works. I can know nothing except what I myself am. If I know others, it is because they are also myself, which I'm kind of rediscovering, recovering, because myself has assumed these apparently alien presentations as well as that which is nearest to my own mental center. All sensation, all action of sense is thus the same in essence, whether external or internal, physical or psychical. Now, so when you study this physics or nuclear physics, or so you will have the same law of consciousness. This is knowledge by identity. There is no other way to know. Consciousness is to identify itself with the being and know it. There is no, and everything what we see as separate from us is actually ourselves, separated by that Indra's kind of categories in time and space, that the presentation will be delayed, so to say, and that delay we are covering up in time and space with our consciousness. All right, I'm coming back to our... Yes.
I had one associated question
Go ahead.
coming from the first statement today, which was that dealing with Sanskrit, we might be dealing with a remnant or a reduced form of a vaster possibility. So when we say that, are we then also saying that the Sanskrit that was held that much more because it actually broke apart, and we're trying now to, in a way, resynthesize it to understand the vastness all over again?
I think so. Yeah.
Is that how we see that Sanskrit is a reduced version of what it could have been?
Yes. Yes, I believe so, because if you study Vedic Sanskrit, you see how vast it is, how more potent and powerful it is. Grammatical forms which are no more allowed in the classical Sanskrit are very vastly used, you know. It doesn't have that restriction by the symmetries of the mind. It does not try to satisfy the mind in its need of systematizing everything, you know. It is still very fluid, very rich in suggestion of meaning. As Sri Aurobindo says, it is not the token of the idea, it is rather a parent of the idea. The word is a parent of the idea. It can generate and manifest the ideas. Yeah? So it's that type of language which we do not have, yeah, today, nowadays. We are very analytic, very mental. Um, we understand things only in contradictions, in comparison. We do not understand things as such, as they are. Yeah? We do not understand the vibrations as they are. We lost that capacity of identifying and knowing directly. We are knowing only through the constructing. We are constructing knowledge always, and constructions we consider to be the knowledge, and it is
Mm.
not. It's only a
And if
construct.
yeah, and therefore, if I have to know directly, I need to know it in a what we might call an integral way, isn't it? Not just through my head, but
Well, yes, oh, head is a part of the deal, of course, but yes, you're right that that is not enough to know only the construct. Yes, as kind of Sri Aurobindo was joking, when everything is explained, nothing is known. So this is exactly that, you know. You explain everything, you put the whole in place, and then you know nothing, because that was done by the mind.
yeah,
So that needs to
that's
be dropped completely. How can you gain the true consciousness then? If you drop those things from the mind, which I understand, I've got that too much, but
Well, we don't need to drop. We have to train the mind to be an instrument rather than the, you know, the Lord. So instrument which helps us. It's like a knife or hammer, you know. It's not the building in which you live. It's just an instrument to build the building. And life itself is altogether something else. Yeah? So if we look at the mind as an instrument, as a helper, then it is very different. We can use it, and we are trying to use it in this course, for example, or Sri Aurobindo is using mind all the time. But he doesn't give it the priority or the preference or the, you know, the leading role to define the knowledge. And he says, very interesting about the mind, he says that he lost his confidence or his trust in the mind when he understood that you can prove any position by the mind.
oh yeah.
So this is a very good indication of what is mind and why we need it. We need it. We operate by the mind. Our surface consciousness cannot understand anything if we don't use the mind. Our surface consciousness is built by the mind and built by language which mind built. Yeah? So through language we arrive at the meanings, and we cannot do otherwise. So we need to train our surface consciousness to receive our indications, our inner intuitions, without distorting them, without hijacking them. You know, every time this happens all the time to you and to everyone. It may be that you say something which your surface consciousness does not expect, yeah, or surprised with. Some thought or some aha comes to you. Where it comes from? This is the word which comes to you, and your surface consciousness even surprised that you expressed such truth which you knew inwardly, but surface didn't know. Now, since you identify yourself with the surface, you think, oh, now I discovered. Yeah. Yes, surface discovered. So we are constantly charging the surface mind with these intuitions, with these illuminations, and it slowly becomes more and more capable of not distorting it. Well, it's
Thank
one
you.
way of saying it.
Thank you.
Yes, so here these two which were one and are always one, and the God and the Word on the highest heaven, in the highest heaven they are one, they got separated by Pashyanti, Madhyama, and finally Vaikkhari. We have two different realities. But the words which build the mental space or linguistic space within our mind and or those relations and meanings are directly corresponding with relations and meanings of the objective world. This is the surprise. Whatever I think in the mind, in the linguistic context, or in the text, is actually matching the physical reality. I am going home by bus. It's exactly the same what happens in the physical reality. I'm in my sentence, in the mind, and in the physical reality. These are the matchings. So objects and the words, though they are different, they are matched because of this Artha and Shabda being one in their origin. That's why. Otherwise, there will be constant mismatch. The mismatch is here in the kind of wrong knowledge, or in the wrong application, lying, so to say. If I lie in the falsehood, when I put one context or one meaning into wrong context, yeah? And then I try to prove it there. So this mismatch made by either um, wrong kind of knowledge, ignorance. Ignorance is mismatching everything, and that's why we live in this constant bewilderment, looking for knowledge. Or it is done by purpose, so I can do it because I want to gain something by that. I hide the truth. I misrepresent the truth. But what is truth? Truth is artha. So this shabda has to match artha. And if it is not matching, if the context is different, then we have a lie. Yeah? Mismatch. So it doesn't fit here. All right. So about principles of building blocks of what Sri Aurobindo says. It says his early writings, and it is quite interesting how he was proceeding to find that etymological system. If Sri Aurobindo would not do this work on etymology, we would be totally in the dark today, because there is nothing coming close to that clarity what he generated. Even I studied Yaska, I studied Nirukta in Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute with the best scholars. Yaska doesn't come close to the understanding what Sri Aurobindo has. Yeah? He gives us a very good material to study, but once you have keys from Sri Aurobindo, you can really, Yaska becomes very, very useful. So I shall first indicate, says Sri Aurobindo, the principle on which the roots of the Deva Bhasha were formed. All Shabda Vak, as it manifests out of the Akasha by the force of Matari Shvan, these are just Godhead, Matari Shvan, the one who grows in the mother, it's like Brahman. In the Yoni, Yoni is the cosmos, Samam Brahman, and in him there is this vibration, that Kshobha we mentioned already. The great active and creative energy, Matarishvan, is put in its place in the flux of formed things, Apas, carries with it certain definite significance, Artha. These are determined by the elements through which it has passed. Shabda appears in the Akasha, travels through Vayu. Here you have your Sankhya. The second element in which Sparsha is the vibration. By the vibration of sparsha, it creates in tejas the third element, certain forms, and so arrives into being with these three characteristics, these major three characteristics of Akasha, Vayu, and Agni or Tejas. He arrives into being with these three characteristics. First, certain contextual vibrations. Secondly, a particular kind of Tejas or force. Thirdly, a particular form. These determine the bhava of general sensation. It creates in the mind and form. The sensation develop its various from that sensation develop its various precise meanings according to the form which it is used to create. I hope I didn't lead you into the jungle. But this is the Akashic kind of from Akasha to Vayu to Tejas to Apas and to the finally to the form. This vibration of consciousness creates the object of sense and the sense of that object of sense. That's why they can be matched. That's why the world can be known. Everything can be known because it is charged with a consciousness in it. But Sri Aurobindo builds these blocks. Interestingly, here are the building blocks for his meaning, um, etymological system also. The building blocks, elementary parts of sense are 6 in number: being, motion, contact, sound, form, and action. It's on these that the meanings will be developed. In the dictionary, the original meanings, which will then grow into contextual usage and become more and more sophisticated. And so we have all the varieties of meanings, so-called all, partial number of varieties of meanings, but they can be reduced to these major meanings, either moving or staying, contacting, sounding. Sounding means expressing oneself also. Form is a particular formation, construct, and action, doing, which is different from moving. So the being vibrant with consciousness becomes a vibration of a sound of consciousness force. Vibration manifests through hearing the sound, shabda, akasha. Contact, vibration, second, the contact, vibration manifested through touch, as of energy of conscious being, sparsha, vayu. Contextual vibration manifests through forming itself into energy, force, heat, flame, light, seeing form, tejas, agni. And fourth, flux of formed energy in things manifests in their contacts and relations, apas. And finally, separateness of things, rigidity, hardness, multitude, prithivi. This is Sankhya. I hope it is quite obvious. Yeah, it's obvious. There is
I think
nothing.
it is more, a lot of things are encoded into this, Vladimir, but I think we'll have to uncover more.
Oh yeah, definitely. This is not the, one day ticket. It's not one day knowing. It's something which will take all your life to ponder about. Yeah?
Yeah.
It's really, I know this system from I don't know how many years, 40 years, and still it is always a wonder. Sri Aurobindo beautifully describes how these dimensions are piling up from one-dimensional akashic vibration to two-dimensional sparsha, because the one vibration touches another vibration. This is sparsha. Then that sparsha has one more dimension. It turns it unto itself and creates a heat, because in the akasha, in the ether is a temperature, and that temperature is spread out, as it were, Yeah, most probably from physics, you know that we have absolute zero in cosmos. And that absolute zero is minus 273 Celsius. That means we cannot go beyond minus 273 Celsius. It's amazing because if we go beyond, then hydrogen will be frozen. And that means if hydrogen is frozen, the whole cosmos collapses. Cosmos exists in the temperature minus 273 bottom. Upward, you can go as much as you want, billions, trillions degrees up. Doesn't matter, there is no limit. But below, there is a limit. So what it tells us that this is a bubble in which temperature is maintained. This is tapas. And this tapas, when it is turned onto itself, starts generating heat, light. Gurdjieff was speaking about this. The knots in the ether are the stars, the knots. If you tie up the ether, you will get the sun and other entities which emit light, because light is inbuilt in the ether. Nowadays, ether is not accepted in the physics, but it was accepted before Einstein. Einstein also, at the end of his life, had to admit that ether is needed. But nevertheless, so this energy is emitted, thrown out because of the third dimension, which is turning onto itself. And then there is a magic of this energy turns into the substance without form, the water, the liquid, which connects all being, has no formation. And then this substance without form is formed into separate rigid forms. It's quite interesting to see the Sankhyaik. So since you asked about Sankhya, you have it here in the building blocks of the meaning.
Vladimir, thanks for that. Vladimir, is this the same movement of ether from air to fire to water to earth?
Yes, absolutely. We have Tanmatras and we have the Pancha Mahabhutani. Yes? These are two corresponding. Tanmatras are the qualities of those five great elements.
But when you say Sankhya was developed in the more later Vedic period, I'm just wondering because even in the Gita, the 8 things are spoken, Vladimir, the 5 elements and the mind, intelligence, and so maybe that is a separate discussion. I'm sorry.
It's a metaphysical topic, very interesting, and I love it. What was before Sankhya? Before Sankhya was the Upanishadic paradigm, was very different. And we can, different in one particular kind of approach. It didn't deal with Ahankara. It dealt with the faculties of consciousness which are directly projected from the Purusha. So Sankhya, which we see, there is Purusha and Prakriti. Maybe I should, since you are insisting on Sankhya. I do not know whether should I go to Sankhya for a second? I know. Yeah, because I'm answering the question. Maybe not. Maybe next time. So when Purusha attends to Prakriti, what does it mean, attends? He is a witness. Yeah, Purusha is a witness. Prakriti is here. Purusha attends to Prakriti. Prakriti starts creating, mixing gunas. Mixing gunas, building buddhi, ahankara, manas, and so on. Yeah? And Pancha Mahabhutani, 5 tanmatras. Everything is built, karmendriyas, jnanendriyas, 25 tattvas. Yes. Prakriti builds the whole manifestation from what? When Purusha attends to her. What does it mean, attends to her? Pays attention to her. He delegates out of himself his faculties. In the Upanishads, it is obvious All his seeing came out, his hearing came out, his word came out and plunged into the inconscient ocean. And from there they started to rebuild the whole manifestation. This is how the Upanishads were seeing it, not as Sankhya. Sankhya does not speak about this. In Sankhya, mysteriously you have these karmendriyas and jnanendriyas built up from what? Where do they come from? This seeing, hearing, where are they coming from? They're coming from Purusha. Purusha delegated them. They built in Sankhya, in a Prakriti, the whole manifestation. Anyhow, coming back to
No. This is not a distraction. This is very interesting. So it's fine. I'm very comfortable with these.
deviations, yeah?
Yes, I'm very comfortable with that.
Okay, great. Now that you are not bored with this and kind of too many things to mention, and especially when this explanation of Sankhya is already a mental structure where mind dominates the indriyas. Indriyas are dominated totally by the mind is choosing what to see, to hear, as Yajnavalkya would say. It is not by the eye that you see, but by the mind. It's not by the ear you hear, but by the mind you hear. So this is the mental structure where mind is totally in control of the indriyas. And from here, indriyas are belittled. They are made small. It's as if they are just providing the material for the mind, which is not the case in Upanishads. And Sri Aurobindo even says that indriyas are infinite. They are pervading the whole universe. They are not just, providers of some material for the mind to choose, for the sense mind, manas. And in the Upanishads, manas is one of those faculties, equal to the word, to hearing and seeing. They were free from the mind. It was pre-Sankhyaik structure, which was quite different because of that. It was still, one foot was still in the Vedic paradigm. So it was transitioning from the Vedic towards mental structure. And then Sankhya came, and Sankhya defined. Sankhya is very modern view on things. We think like this today, even in modern way, that mind is in control of the senses.
So it's almost as if Sankhya in the Indian system was what Archimedean principles were in the Western tradition, that it suddenly forgot the source and simply relied on what the mind was able to see at a certain point of time.
Similar thing happened in the West. It was like in one period, 500 BC, suddenly everybody was interested, kind of shifted towards the mind. Yeah, we see Socrates who says, I don't need to know how the world was made. I can measure it with my mind. I can know things. I can weigh, measure, see, experience. I can discover the truth by myself. So this reliance on the mind was everywhere in the world. All these great religions are coming, Jainism, Buddhism, they are all coming as a rebellious, movement against that tradition which was already conventional and lost its knowledge. So suddenly the whole mental kind of need was felt. I think it was like evolutionary need of humanity. And you can see them in all the cultures all over the world. This shift in particular time, 500 BC, shift. And we started to think in terms of Sankhya. Sankhya is actually the true system of mental structure. It is, yeah.
Sorry, brother. I think it is also the same time around which the conception of atom was starting to be formed by the Greek philosophers.
Absolutely. Greeks were one of those also, and the whole drift from all those, Plato wanted to banish all the bards from the city, that they would not come with their mythology, bewildering our minds. So this kind of need for measuring. So what is measuring? Ma, root ma, from which man is also derived, manas, to measure, man, measurement, mental, mind. All these is one etymological. Yeah. So this measurement is the thing. So you have 25 tattvas in irreducible elements in Sankhya. It's a measurement. There is no more intuition. There is no more space for kind of perceiving something, experiencing. This is not the case. It has to be systematically explained, and it was. And actually, it's very successful. Sri Aurobindo was of a high opinion of Sankhya. He says this is a true system for the mind. Okay, with these vowels, I think we will have to deal with next time. God. Because we kind of prepared our ground, I hope, for looking into that intuitive understanding of the direct knowledge, because when the sounds are being articulated, it is related to our system psychologically. When we articulate sounds, we feel a particular effort. For example, if I articulate ah as this, undifferentiated initial state, indicates a simplicity, in its simplicity without any further modification or quality. So me, initial creative of space, this indifferentiated state of existence, because there are no articulations, so only vocal cords are sounding. I don't do anything with the tongue, with the nose, with the teeth, with lips. Everything is relaxed. But when I do E sound, E, I have to push with my tongue to the palate, to the top of my capacity within the given apparatus. And then it becomes intense state of existence. Immediately we can feel it within the system, within the body. Being narrowed, yes, I narrow with my tongue, with the top, with the middle of the tongue, I press R to the palate, to the hard palate, and there will be short opening, a very narrow opening, and that R becomes I, like piercing, like needle piercing through. So this needle, this forceful and insistent tending to a goal, seeking to occupy space. It's like an arrow flying to the goal. This, but this what we feel in the body, interestingly. Yeah? It's not something I make up from elsewhere, saying, let me assign to it some symbolic meaning. No, I know it within this system. And then ooh, if you take ooh, a wide. Why wide? Wide with W. Why? This is interesting. Extended, not diffused. It's not diffused. Ooh. So om. Ooh. This ow. This there is a fullness in it. Yeah, in ooh, and there is also, because the lips are on the surface already, and the sense of it in the body is that it is holding the fullness within it, being medial and firmly occupant of space. Why medial? Because there are two lips, interestingly. And you will find that this duality, tu, u, and thou, and you, second person, thou, you, second, yeah, very important. In a Sanskrit, all dualities with au, yeah, su, au, jas. If you study Sanskrit, you will see narach, narau, two men, yeah, or marutau, two winds. You will have au for duality. You will have also it in tvam, tuam, you, yeah, you vam, you yam, you too, you many. Everywhere oo you will have. And this is not a by kind of mistake or choice. It is because the meaning, that subtle meaning, which is direct, is inbuilt in the words. And if you start analyzing the roots, and we will do this, you will see, now I see this oo everywhere. If you take the root u, for example, u, which means e and u together, you will see immediately e is oneness, one-pointedness, and u duality. Yeah? It's like this. Yeah, like this. This is one-pointedness and this is duality. Put together and you will have U root. U root means to unite, and it's quite obvious because two come into one, yeah? Or to divide, which is also quite obvious. From oneness you come to duality. Two meanings, to unite and to divide. Whoa. So from here we have huge root, for example. And huge yoga from here is to yoke, and yoga has 150 significances in Monier-William Dictionary, and I'm sure that this is an open list, and you have everything, because this device you can use anywhere. Yeah, use, unite, yoke, in mathematics, add, in grammar, in every field you will have new meanings arriving from this yoga word. In Jyotisha you will have yoga something else, in mathematics something else, but the word will have that general significance of yoking two in one, holding two in one. And then you will look into other roots, not huge is extended with j. You will look into a root, for example, yudh, to fight. Why yudh, to fight? Because yu is again two held in one. It's a fight. Two opposites are held in one space and they don't reconcile and then generate that field of tension. Yes. So,
Explain Yuva, Vladimir.
hmm?
How do you explain Yuva?
Yuval, you mean?
Yuva, youth or
Yes, interesting. Yeah, Yuvan, Yuvati. These are, yes, the words of.
does it come from the same root or is it different?
I think the same root, absolutely. And this is the full of energy, um, kind of having of kind of yes, youth. Not spent energy, it is still there, beaming, being generated between these two. Yeah? I'm just kind of simplifying the idea of direct feeling of the language within the articulatory device. If we would have different form of our articulation or different head, like dolphins, for example, or we would produce different sounds, but the ideas of these general ideas would be the same. Yes, because we articulate a particular meaning, not the sound. Now I'm kind of turning it upside down. We are not articulating the sounds. We are articulating the tension, the fullness. And how would we do with this apparatus? Only in this way, because it's given. It's fixed. So these sounds, these roots come from that need of pure, clear articulation of particular meanings by given apparatus. And they match totally with us. So we understand the meaning not only through the mind as a structure, but directly as it vibrates when we articulate it. Okay, I will stop here for today. At least I did something on etymology.
Vladimir, will the fifth vowel also be there here? L.
Yes, I will come to it also. Shubhendu doesn't speak of it, but Ri, okay, let me finish with Ri since you're already asking. So Ri is a vibrant state of existence so pulsating in space, being active about a point within a limit. And that's well. Before it was this velar one. In the Rig Pratishakya was Ri, and then it became Ri, cerebral. And this drilling, like you're hitting the same point all the time, you're not moving away from that point. And you will see that many words in Indo-European languages and in Sanskrit have this drilling effect, breaking, drilling, crushing. Everywhere where the Ri, there will be something of that kind, And
Rishi or Krishna also has Re.
yeah, krish is to pull and to crush, actually, very close to it, because plowing was krish. And if you look at the li sound, it is the same as ri. Panini says that li and ri are actually originally the same, but it is already gliding, sliding, leaking, loving. If you have, for example, crashing, and then you will have clashing, you could feel the difference, in the meaning. Crashing and clashing. Clashing is more like embracing, crashing is more like penetrating, crushing.
Rig, how do you, how what, and we say rig, Veda. I don't know the meaning of rig, Vladimir. Now, rig,
Rich. Rich is interesting word.
rig, not rich.
Yeah, it is from rich. Rich and Rig Veda, yes. It's just the modulation. But it is original rich, archati, arca from here. From here, arctus, arctica. From here, rickshaw. Rickshaw is not rickshavala, but rickshaw is a bear. Rickshaw is 7 stars, 7 rishis, the big bear constellation pointing to Dhruvam. And that is Arctica. From here, this Greek Arctus, which is bear actually, because it points to the north. And Rik is to produce actually the sound, to emit the light and the sound together. It's interesting because arca is the sound and arca is the hymn, both. So you have hymn, the word and the light going together, flaming words.
Actually, this is so interesting because even in the book, one sentence that I found so fascinating was that it was the nerves and not the intellect which created speech.
Yes, that's Sri Aurobindo's, yes.
Yeah.
It's more closer to the direct experience within the system rather than just modifying it already by the mind too much.
Yeah.
Great, we can stop here and continue next time. There will be much to look into. The whole system, what Sri Aurobindo gives, all the meanings he will assign to the whole alphabet will be assigned by him, and we will look into it and try to figure out what are these and what they built and how they do it, how the roots are built, why they mean what they mean, and can we read it from that angle, from the angle of etymology, Sanskrit language? We can, actually. It is readable, it is transparent. Once we learn these keys, when we feel them deeply within ourselves, we will start noticing them. Also in the Indo-European languages, English, Slavic languages. You take any language, you will start noticing those elements. Latin, Greek. Okay, great. I will stop here for today and meet you next time. We don't start with mantras or Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. See you then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.